He had nothing in his pockets, but his mind refused to stay empty. Every day looked the same: worn shoes, tired hands, and long walks with no clear destination. Yet deep inside, something different was happening, while others around him only saw limits. He began to picture possibilities. He imagined a life where his days were not controlled by struggle, where his effort actually led somewhere. That single shift in imagination quietly changed everything. Nothing around him improved. Overnight, the streets stayed harsh, opportunities stayed scarce, and the weight of reality pressed just as hard as before. But his thinking was no longer trapped in the present moment. Instead of asking, "Why is my life like this?" he started asking, "What can this life become?" That question gave his suffering a purpose. It turned frustration into fuel and hardship into preparation. With a bigger vision in his mind, even the smallest actions felt meaningful. Learning a new skill, observing successful people, working a little harder than required, these were no longer random efforts. They were steps toward a future he could already see. While others stopped when results didn't appear, he continued, because his motivation was not dependent on immediate rewards. His direction came from belief, not circumstances. Thinking big didn't remove his problems, but it changed how he faced them. Failure no longer felt like an ending. It felt like information. Rejection didn't break him, it refined him. When progress was slow, his vision reminded him why quitting was not an option. His mindset moved ahead of his reality, pulling his life forward inch by inch. That is where real change begins. Not when money arrives, not when help appears. Change begins when the mind steps into a bigger future before the body ever reaches. He grew up believing that poverty was a sentence written for life. Empty pockets, borrowed clothes, and constant comparison made him feel smaller every day. Society treated money as a measure of worth, and for a long time he accepted that lie. But one quiet realization changed his inner world. Being poor did not mean being powerless. It simply meant starting with fewer tools, not fewer possibilities. While others blamed circumstances, he began observing patterns. He noticed that people with success were not always the most privileged, but often the most prepared. They learned continuously, adapted quickly, and refused to let their background define their destination. That understanding freed him. Instead of wasting energy on what he lacked, he focused on what he could: build skills, discipline, and confidence. Each day became a training ground. He learned from mistakes without shame and from criticism without resentment. When doors were closed, he didn't wait for permission. He looked for another route. His hunger became an advantage. With nothing guaranteed, he was willing to work harder, learn faster, and take risks others avoided. Poverty forced him to think creatively, solve problems independently, and value progress over comfort. There were moments of doubt, especially when effort brought no immediate reward, but he reminded himself that potential does not show up as applause, it grows quietly through consistency. While others measured success by possessions, he measured it by improvement. Every new skill gained was wealth no one could take away. Over time, the gap between where he started and where he was going became clear. Poverty had shaped his beginning, but it did not control his ceiling. His journey proved a powerful truth. Resources can be missing, support can be absent, and conditions can be unfair, yet potential remains untouched. And when potential is combined with persistence, even the emptiest pockets cannot stop a determined mind. Asterisk at first, his actions seemed too small to matter. Waking up early, repeating the same hard tasks, learning slowly with no recognition, none of it looked impressive. There were no instant results, no visible breakthroughs, and no applause. But what made these actions powerful was the vision behind them. He wasn't moving randomly. Every step was connected to something bigger than the present moment. Big thinking gave meaning to repetition. When others saw routine, he saw construction. Each small effort was a brick placed carefully toward a future he believed in. Even on days when motivation was low, his purpose carried him forward. He understood that massive change is rarely created by dramatic moves, but by ordinary actions done with extraordinary consistency. When progress felt invisible, he didn't stop. He trusted the process because his focus was not on quick rewards, but long-term growth. One skill learned today prepared him for an opportunity tomorrow. One disciplined habit built the strength needed for greater responsibility, while others quit because results were slow. He continued because his vision was clear. Mistakes did not discourage him, they informed him. Instead of seeing failure as wasted effort, he treated it as feedback. Every correction refined his direction. Every delay strengthened his patience. Small actions, guided by big thinking, kept him moving even when conditions were discouraging. Over time, those unnoticed efforts began to connect. What once looked insignificant became visible progress. Confidence grew. Opportunities appeared. Others suddenly called it luck, never realizing how many quiet days of effort led to that moment. This is the hidden power of thinking big. It turns simple actions into stepping stones. It transforms discipline into momentum. And it proves that when vision is large enough, even the smallest steps can carry a person far beyond where they started.